Is there more than one way to God? That's the question that we will be answering today. Hi, my name is Jake Veda. I am the student pastor here at Eastlake Church. We are a church of many locations, and here's what to expect today. We're gonna go into some high school news with some of our great pastors. Then we're finally gonna answer the question, is there more than one way to God? We're gonna do it through an awesome student story, and then we're gonna end with a reflective song. We also have an awesome announcement about groups, so stay until the end to hear that. Enjoy.
Welcome everyone, my name is Yasmin.
And my name is Nick.
And welcome to
HSM News.
We are your hosts to deliver the craziest tea, challenges, and news weekly.
That's right, Yasmin. And today, we decided to be cool and relevant, and we decided to make some TikTok videos.
Yes, guys, I think we're gonna become viral after this. So we are gonna do our first challenge, and it is like this egg fun, like little,
That's right.
Just check out the video.
All right. Do we have to be looking at each other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, no!
You gotta go.
I'm not
be
gonna
fast.
lose.
You gotta
Okay.
be fast.
Go fast. Ready? Oh! She's trying to get me. I don't want to lose.
Is it a hard one? Okay, ready?
No.
Okay, ready? Here we go. Ready?
Is it hard?
Oh.
Alrighty guys, that egg challenge was absolutely a mess.
Treacherous.
But if you want to try it, make sure to make that TikTok and tag us at united.hsm. Next, we are gonna put Nick's dance skills to the test. So, check out this video.
Shake that left and tap it, girl. Bring it back and drop it, girl. I wanna see you pop it, girl. Don't stop, just drop it, girl. You got a booty with your back real fat.
Nick has some moves. I doubted you, but you actually did a pretty good job.
Oh man. All right. Well, never make me do something like that again. We have the last one. All right. We know you like the Kardashian sisters,
Yep.
so we decided to make a TikTok on the Kardashians.
Do I think it's funny? Yeah, you're like laughing about it. You really need to just mind your business and like, why are you so concerned with what I'm doing? Because I think it's weird and I'm your sister and I speak up. If I feel like something's weird and I feel like, okay, well, you need to keep it to yourself because I'm fine.
My favorite part of that entire TikTok was like, I'm fine.
I'm pretty sure there's moments where I actually talk like that.
Yeah, like I'm sure.
I'm fine.
Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you so much. I hope you still think we are cool and relevant. So if you try any of these TikToks, make sure to tag us. Don't forget at united.hsm. And
Hey,
I think that's all for today.
We love you guys, and we'll see you next week on
HSM News.
I heard many of you guys started school this week online, at least in our Chula Vista location. In our other locations, you'll start soon enough. And here's the thing, we know that having service also in church is not the same if you're watching on YouTube. We also know that on Zoom, it's not the same as being physically together at school. So we know it's hard, we know it's frustrating, but I just wanna say congratulations, because you're winning at life. Why? Because you're here right now. You're trying to figure out your faith in the midst of a hard, difficult time. Many people just kind of forget about their faith when times get difficult. So again, thank you for winning at life by being here, watching this YouTube video. And here's the thing, you're probably here because you're asking this question, is there more than one way to God? We actually started an entirely new series this week called Essentials, where we're going through the 4 essential questions to God, or the 4 essential questions that you will have about Jesus. So now we're about to get right into it. Is there more than one way to God? I guess we'll find out.
So I remember one of my first days of school, and I always get super excited about like my first day of school outfit, and I choose to dress a little bit more conservatively. That's just the way that I like to dress. I believe modest is hottest, and so I was walking in there's like a little pathway, my first day of school, feeling all confident. And if you don't know, there's kind of like this girl code. If any girl is having like some like fashion emergency, like even if you don't know the girl, you approach them and say like, hey, like your skirt's tucked into your shorts and all that stuff. So I'm walking this long pathway and I see this girl who's wearing shorts and they're like super risen up. Like it looked like she was walking and I was like, oh my gosh, like this girl doesn't know that like her butt is like hanging out. Like I have to tell her. Like I genuinely was like, oh my gosh, like how embarrassing. She's like walking like this pathway. And so like I approach this girl that I don't know and I'm like, hey, like I just want to let you know that like you're like butt showing. And she just like turned around and she just straight up laughed in my face and like just kept walking. And in that moment, I kind of realized that I think a lot of us just choose the way that we go about our lives, whether that comes about the way we dress or even about our belief system. So here's a question for you. There are lots of different belief systems out there that have Jesus as a part of their story. So is there more than one way to God?
In our series, Jesus Explained, we talked about what sets Christianity apart from all other religions. And if you want to take a look at that series, just click the link in the description. But what about belief systems that have Jesus as a part of their story? For example, we look at the belief of Islam. Muslims believe that Jesus is a good prophet and one of the best prophets at that. In Mormonism, believers believe that Jesus is also the Son of God, along with the enemy, Satan. So if they've got Jesus in their belief system story, why not be a part of their religion as well?
In John 14:6, we hear Jesus say this statement: I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus is straight up telling his followers, if you want to know the Father, you got to come with me, walk with me, watch how I do it, and I've got you covered. This statement is audacious, it is simple, and it is powerful. Jesus is saying he's one with the Father, and that if we connect with Jesus, that we are also connected to God the Father. There's nothing more and there's nothing less. It's our commitment to walking with Jesus, our commitment to trusting Jesus, that changes everything.
In our Armor Up series, we learned that we have an enemy named Satan, and his whole goal is to deceive us and push us away from our faith. But because Jesus is real and true, he wouldn't get far by saying it's not true. But instead, Satan plays a really smart tactic here. In that John passage, Jesus claims it's Jesus alone. But Satan says it's Jesus plus something else. It's Jesus plus works. It's Jesus plus actions. It's small, but it's in there.
Remember our examples of religions, okay? In Islam, they believe that faith in Jesus and what he did is a huge part of being saved, but they also believe that to be saved, you have to uphold the 5 pillars of faith, which is prayer, alms, faith, pilgrimage, and fasting. You see, it's Jesus plus the 5 pillars.
We could look at other well-intended religions or beliefs and even branches of thought within Christianity and see the same sort of subtle Jesus plus. And my encouragement to you is this: anytime you start to notice a Jesus plus teaching, pause, take notice of it, name it, and examine it carefully.
In this series, we are actually going to be going through the book of Galatians. Now in Galatians, there's a guy named Paul who actually wrote this book. He was the author of this book 2,000 years ago. And it's funny because he was struggling with this same question: is there more than one way to God? There are people called Judaizers at the time. At least that's what Paul called them. And these people said, yeah, Jesus is important, but we should also add on rules as well. So Jesus plus a lot of rules get me to Jesus. And we've already covered Jesus plus anything isn't really right. And it's funny that this book of Galatians totally gets that to a T.
In Galatians 1:6-10, as Paul starts this letter, here's what he says: I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting the one who called you to live in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel, which is really no gospel at all. Evidently, some people are throwing you into confusion and are trying to pervert the gospel of Christ. Saying Jesus plus isn't a little thing to Paul, it's a really big deal, because it puts us completely off course. It's a confusion which apparently is very easy to fall into that ruins the good news message of Jesus, because it's intended to be Jesus alone.
In another letter that Paul writes, he says, salvation is by grace. It is no longer on the basis of works. Otherwise, grace would no longer be grace. Paul is saying that God's gift of salvation is brought to us through grace alone. Jesus paid it all, and it's our job to accept that gift.
Let's keep going in that same letter in Galatians from the Apostle Paul. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach a gospel other than the one we preach to you, let them be under God's curse. As we have already said, so now I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel other than what you accepted, let them be under God's curse. Again, Paul is saying this is so important. Here specifically, he's saying, I don't care who adds a plus to this whole idea of Jesus' saving grace. He doesn't care if it's your mama, your tia, a religious leader, or even an angel. How do you argue against that? For Paul, the good news of Jesus centers on our trust in Jesus. It centers on the grace offered to us through Christ alone. And any message that goes away from that or adds to that just isn't the gospel.
If you get anything out of this whole entire message, I want you to get this. It's the answer to the question, is there more than one way to God? The answer is that Jesus is the only way. Through him, we get salvation. Here's the thing, if you are struggling with these questions, or if you want community, because I think we all need it, especially during a time of quarantine, we would love to provide you community. We're actually launching groups. So here's the thing, if you text groups to 67076, we can get you facilitated into one of our thriving groups with people your same age, working through the same questions. We'd love to help, and we're answering these questions because we know you're asking these questions.
So what do you do with this? We stand firm in Jesus alone, and we stand confidently in Jesus. We don't have to earn his approval or his love. His grace has got us covered.
Right now, we are gonna have the opportunity to hear from Sophie, who's a student in our program. And Sophie's story captures what it means to know God through Jesus in a really challenging time. After we hear from Sophie, we're gonna have the opportunity to listen to a song called Yes, I Will. And my encouragement to you during that song is to slow down and to reflect on the lyrics, on what you're hearing, and to really come home to this idea of what it means to not add anything additional to our idea of what it means to be right with God, and to just simply say, Jesus alone.
My name is Sophie Pacello. I'm going to be a senior at Otay Ranch High School, and I go to Eastlake Church at the Chula Vista campus. Yeah, my life before Jesus wasn't too exciting. My parents got divorced when I was 7 years old, and my family didn't really go to church. We only went on holidays like Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving. That was about it. And my dad wasn't religious. My mom really wasn't religious. And my dad has a mental illness. He's schizophrenic. So every time we'd see him, he would tell us, oh, yes, I'm on medication. It's fine to see me. And it wasn't okay because he couldn't really control. And it was just not safe, really. And I feel like through that time, like I felt so alone, and I was like, I don't even have a dad present with me. It was just hard, and like especially I was going into middle school too during that time, and I was like 8th grade. Oh, it was bad. Personally, I'm the person where I put up a wall, and like if someone hurts me or my family, I just like put a wall. So I feel like every time my dad would try to call me, I'd just block it off, and I'd pretend like I'm okay. But like I feel like it was truly like building up, you know, and it's like a pot, it like builds up and then like boom, it bursts. So I feel like that was me. I feel like I just blocked him off, and I was just like, I don't care about my dad. Like I don't care. He hurt me. I don't love it, all this stuff, which was really bad. Like he's my dad. And so I feel like I just like really tried to block it off, and I was just so alone in that time. I would go to Camp United, and Camp United's so fun. Like it's so fun, and I only would go just for the games and like all this stuff. You know how people go. But 8th grade, like I was going to 8th grade, I went and I met all these people, and I remember that one night, the third night, where everyone cries, and I was like, why are everybody crying? You know, like what's going on? And so then I remember they were like, oh, you're like people, if you want to give your life to God, like please stand up and come up to the front. Like we're here for you. We have people praying for you. And I was like, I felt something like the Holy Spirit. Like I was like, I didn't know what it was. I was like, what is this? But I felt something in me that was like, get up, like you have something going on, give it to God. And so I did. I went up, I threw my hands up, I asked Kellen to pray for me. I was like, hey, like this is what's going on. And I was just crying. I was like, what am I feeling? Like I felt so free, I feel like after. And I like didn't have resentment at all. Like I felt so happy, and I didn't know how to explain it to people. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I just felt so like happy and like joyful. So as I came back down the mountain, of course, like my dad was, he tried to sue my mom for visitation and all this stuff, and I knew that having my dad in my life wasn't good for me or my family, like my sister, and he called us to court and I had to go, and I literally had to stand up and say, you know what, I don't want a relationship with my dad. And it was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do, but while I was there, I didn't feel like alone. I felt like I could do it because I had God on my side. I had leaders, I had growth group like people there, and I just like, I felt so free like when I said, you know what, I can't have you in my life, like I'm sorry. And after that, I didn't have resentment towards my dad. I didn't hate him. I wasn't like blocking him off completely. I was just like, it is what it is, like everything happens for a reason, and I may not have like a dad, like, but I have God like as my dad, and he's like my father, so that's how it is. If you're where I'm at or have anything similar to that story, family problems are always super hard. You have to go home and live with them, all the time. It's just trust the process, I feel like, because, everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that. I truly believe God takes people out of your life for a reason. And just trust the process, pray a lot, always be like, you know what, I know what I'm going through is hard right now, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. God will not put you through something that you can't handle. And I feel like if you're going through a lot, just like breathe and remember, like, I'm not alone. I can do this. Like, my family loves me. People support me, and just pray to God about it, because he knows what you're going through. He's not just sitting there like blind. Like, he knows what's going on in your life. So yeah, tell someone.
I count on one thing: the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now. In the waiting, the same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh yes, I will. Yes, I will bless your name. I count on one thing: the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now. In the waiting, the same God who's never late is working all things out. He's working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless
Like we mentioned in our talk, we are going into our group season, which we are very excited about. So here's the thing, if you want to get facilitated into a healthy community, text groups to 67076. And we are excited to see you in one of our groups soon.